not from the Norla area, so if you're going to name roads, you might want to go with something like Uri Drive.
This team is going to be buying popcorn after the end of the game, and they will be carrying the state championship trophy home. Book it. This team is going to be on Canal Street.
Oh, I would love that. And welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the Norla Sports Recap Podcast, now the playoff edition. That's right. First round of the playoffs is almost in the books. I am your host, JD, and thank you again for all of our listeners coming from Twitter or from wherever you heard about the podcast. Again, we are on Twitter at Norla Sports. If you don't know, if you didn't listen to the first podcast, we cover high school sports in North Louisiana, a range of parishes above a certain line. You can check out Twitter to find out that coverage area, or you can listen to the first podcast again. Like I said, first round of the playoffs is almost in the books. Friday night's action is over. We are recording on a Saturday morning, so there are a couple of teams that haven't played yet. The only one in the North Louisiana region that hasn't played yet would be Wasserman at Green Oaks, so we're really looking forward to the result of that tonight. But we almost have everything ready, so we're going to recap a little bit of what's going on, a little bit about the first round. Buckle up, because it's going to be quite a ride. My guest this week, we like to have a guest, and this week my guest joining me will be Twitter personality Top Rat.
Hi, guys. It's great to be back, and I am honored that we can come to you again live.
And it is great, or it is at least good to have you back on the podcast. So real quick, like we said, Friday night's action is in the books. We're going to give a rundown real quick of the scores just from the Norla teams, starting with the 1A bracket. In the 1A bracket, 24 seed Delta Charter loses to 9 seed Jonesboro Hodge 52-6. 8 seed Oberlin defeats our own 25 seed Northwood Lena 60-0. Homer, 12 seed, holds on against 21 seed Elton 44-6. Plain Dealing, a 22 seed, sees their season end as they fall to 11 seed Montgomery 42-0. Number 27 seed Tensall also loses to number 6 seed Basile 56-8. Number 7 Delhi rolls over North Central 54-0. And number 23 seed Arcadia loses a heartbreaker at East Iberville 22-16. In the select Division 4 bracket, number 9 seed Ouachita Christian goes on the road to 8 seed Central Catholic and wins 49-28. We'll definitely talk about that one. 14 seed Cedar Creek loses to 3 seed Vermilion Catholic 48-13. And 6 seed St. Frederick wins at home against 11 Sacred Heart 16-7. Moving up to 2A, in a battle of Norla schools, 17 North Caddo loses to number 16 Rabel 27-15. Number 12 seed Mansfield defeats 21 South Plaquemine 16-14. 14 General Trask defeats number 19 Lakeside 35-6. Number 27 Delhi Charter goes on the road and loses to number 6 seed St. Helena 32-0. And number 10 seed Red River fails to defend home turf against number 23 Franklin and loses 13-16. In the Division 3 select bracket, we only have one Norla game going on there. Number 3 Calvary Baptist throttles number 14 Pope John Paul II 42-9. Back into the non-select bracket in the 3A, number 8 North Webster defeats number 25 Albany 41-8. Number 5 Union Parish comes out strong against number 28 Bogalusa and wins 50-0. And not to be outdone, number 4 seed Sterlington defeats number 29 Cohen College Prep 49-0. In a rematch of a district game, number 10 seed Caldwell Parish defeats number 23 Avoyelles 22-14. And number 15 Green Oaks and 18 Wasserman will play tonight. Back into the select bracket in Division 2. One game there. Number 8 Loyola Prep was the slight favorite, but falls to number 9 St. Louis 24-36. 4A, we have number 1 seed Edna Carr coming up and defeating number 32 Menden 34-10. Number 16 seed Tioga loses a big one to number 16 Benton loses a big one to number 17 Tioga 42-21. Bastrop struggles early but comes out and defeats McDonald 35, 44-16. So number 9 seed Bastrop will be advancing there. Number 20 Franklin Parish went on the road to number 13 Pearl River and almost came out with one, but loses 21-20. Number 4 Neville defeats number 23 Opelousas in a shootout, 55-21. Number 27 Woodlawn of Shreveport goes on the road, and their season ends to the hands of number 6 Leesville, 49-28. Number 7 Northwood Shreveport stays undefeated as they defeat number 26 South Terrebonne, 48-12. And number 10 seed North DeSoto loses one at home to number 23 Helen Cox as they fall 19-14. And then all the way up to the big ones, Division 1 Select. Evangel Christian was a big favorite at home as a 5 seed against number 12 Archbishop Shaw, and they deliver. They win 63-0. And finally, the 5A games, we had number 1 seed West Monroe taking care of business at home against number 32 Pineville, 53-0. That one was actually 50-0 at halftime. Number 16 number 16 Captain Shreve in the game of the week defeats number 17 Saint Amant, 28-21. Number 8 Ruston defeats number 25 Como, 28-18. Number 13 Halton had a tough test against number 20 Fountain Blue, but they come through big and win 57-36. And finally, in a thriller, number 10 Ouachita Parish defeats number 23 Parkway, 37-35. Those are the scores from the north end of the state. If you are interested in scores from anywhere else, listen to the podcast that covers those, because it's not us. Very good. Well, we have a few teams we'd like to talk about just from the first round. And the first one, we're going to go way down to the little boys over at Division 4 and talk about Ouachita Christian, hereby referred to as OCS. That's what we call them in this part of the booth, as they went on the road to Central Catholic. That game is actually played down at the Morgan City Junior High School. And OCS was a 5.5-point underdog in this one. So it wasn't out of the question that they could win, but I don't think any of us saw them going down there and winning 49-28.
As a select school, this has been a tough year, and Fitzhugh has his actual son is on this team, and he's a big part of it. We were scouting OCS early in the season. They have they're still battling, and they're going to go on to the second round. And don't count don't count this team out, guys, because they can really make a deep playoff run.
That is true. They can, and they have quite a prolific offense. And when that offense gets going, they generally win. They started the season off with a 63-32 win at Arcadia. Arcadia turned out to be a pretty tough team throughout the year. Played some teams really close, so that was a big win there. OCS's only losses were to Sterlington, Oak Grove, and St. Frederick. All three really good teams, so a lot of us were questioning if OCS could go on the road and defeat a good team in the playoffs this year. It wasn't out of the question. They did defeat Delhi on the road 56-42, so we knew they could do it. But again, just a huge win for the Eagles, going down south and winning 49-28. Their season will continue, and they will go on to play Southern Lab. So their season's probably going to end next week, but it's been a good run. Good run for the Eagles, and if they could defeat Southern Lab, they have a really good shot of going all the way to the Dome. Another team we'd like to talk about is Red River. I've been getting some questions about Red River on Twitter after making them.
Most people, when they think of Red River, you have to think of Bossier, and there is the Red River rivalry, but Bossier is the most thing that people in Louisiana know as the river that separates Bossier and Shreveport. And really, Red River is more than that. It is a 2A high school down there in south of Shreveport in Coushatta.
Yes, that's right. They are down in Coushatta. Most people don't really realize that Red River Parish is there, but it is there. And they had some high hopes coming into the playoffs as the highest Norla 2 seed team to be in at number 10 after having a 6-3 record for the year. But I know what I'm talking about when I make these lines. This is what I do. A lot of you sit at home on the couch and watch and just kind of read the score lines and don't think about what's going on in the games, but I figured that they would lose this one.
The tough part about being in that bracket is they've already played the odds-on favorite to take home the state title trophy in the team from Manny, but Coach Bachman, he knew, and he was ready. They weren't playing Manny in week 1. That was established. But in the back of all those kids' mind, everybody knew down the road we may end up hitting it off, shoulder pads the helmets against the Manny team.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up their schedule, and I just want to kind of, at this point, be a little critical of their schedule and explain why they were made a 1.5 underdog at home to a 23 seed in Franklin. Red River starts off the season by playing Lincoln Prep, probably the second worst school in the state as far as football goes, and they win 50-0. No big deal. They go on to play Mansfield and Ash. They split wins and losses there. But then they go on to roll off 4 straight wins against teams that are not good at all: Richwood, Winfield, Lakeview, and Bunkie. So kind of a bit of a fraud there from Red River. Then they go on to play Manny, the top team in 2A, and lose 49-6. And then play Holy Savior Menard, who's not a very good team, and they end up losing that season-ending game 6-14 to move into the playoffs, where they inevitably would lose to Franklin 13-16. So I just want to take this time to defend my own honor. A lot of you poked fun at my lines and said that how could I disrespect the Red River Bulldogs, but maybe when they play some actual teams and give me some actual results, I won't have to knock them out of the bracket so soon. If you have a problem with that, you know where to find me on Twitter.
The other reason that Red River is, since they have been there, they're in Coushatta. Coushatta, to most people, you don't think about the city southeast, maybe south to some degree of Shreveport. Most people think of the casino in Kinder, and they are the little stepbrother, actually, to the other Coushatta, which is that casino and Kinder, and they are really the ugly stepchild.
If they want to stop being the ugly stepchild, they should start doing something on the football field, because right now no one is the least bit impressed with them. And to sort of end the negativity of that segment, let's bring it back to a school that's back to where it used to be, and that is Bastrop. The Bastrop Rams up in Morehouse Parish, moving up to 4A now. They win their first round playoff game against McDonough 35. This one was close early. They were actually up 18-16 at one point, which was a little scary for the Rams after being made a 23.5 point favorite in this one, expected to cruise through, but they end up winning 44-16. And it's just really good to see a school like that get back to where they were. Back-to-back state championships in the mid-2000s. And then Coach Bradshaw retires. And they had some rough years, but they seem to be back. And that town really gathers and really puts their hearts and souls into that team. And with the paper mill leaving town and all the stuff that's been going on there, it's good to see a team that puts the town on their backs and just lifts everybody's spirits and makes a playoff run.
Brad Bradshaw, much like Don Chalice in last week's segment, left some big shoes, and Adrian Burnett has found he has taken those shoes, and he knows. See, Bradshaw he's actually JD. Bradshaw is still a part of that program as a consigliere and an ambassador, and almost just a mentor to these boys. And these parents and family members know that everyone in this town, even though Marouge and Prairie View Academy are right there on their heels, everyone that's a Bastrop Ram family member and supporter, they are all in. This team really has what it takes to move on, not only next week, but the week after that.
Side note, Prairie View Academy plays in the MAIS, so they do not exist. But yes, Bradshaw left some great, solid shoes. I mean, if you're going to talk about the shoes that Bradshaw left to be filled, they're probably like the third edition of the Air Jordans. And he left them there for Burnett, and that is some tough shoes to fill. But like he said, like Top Rat said, Bradshaw has stayed on as a consultant, so he's almost staying back to shine the shoes of the new regime, and it's really paying off as Bastrop locks down on defense and finally gets things done on offense and defeats McDonough 35. just to kind of give a quick recap of Bastrop's season, they only lost twice this year, and those were to Brother Martin and then in the final game to Neville. And both of those losses were close. They lost to Brother Martin on the road 25-28, and they lost to Neville on the road 12-17. And a lot of us can remember that Bastrop-Neville game every year is a fun one. So that surely was a good one. We didn't have a chance to cover that. But they've also beat some really good teams. They started off the season by beating George Washington Carver. Then they beat Airline on the road. They beat Calvary Baptist on the road. They destroyed Richwood, not saying much. They destroyed Menard, not saying much, before losing to Brother Martin. Then they took care of business against Franklin Parish and West Ouachita, and then losing to Neville, and then defeating, who did they defeat? McDonough 35. And next week, Bastrop will go on the road and play Westgate in the second round of the playoffs. We've been getting a lot of Twitter love, I guess, from Westgate, who is not from our area. I'm not sure why they're coming at us, seeing tweets like, "Don't sleep on Westgate." Their season is going to end next week as they travel to Bastrop to play the Rams, so I'm not sure why they don't want us to sleep on them.
JD, the really funny thing about that is they're saying don't sleep, but if they are going up to the Ram pit, I think JD, I think they might be sleeping all off season.
The only chance that Bastrop has to not win this game is if they play it on a Thursday night, which is why we didn't cover that Bastrop-Neville game in the first place, because they played on a Thursday night. These schools really need to step up their game and play on Friday nights. I've never seen a TV show called Thursday Night Lights, because that would be terrible. I know what I'm talking about in this field. I've been covering high school sports for a long time. I've been making odds for a long time, and Thursday night games are just bizarre.
Thursday night is for junior high. Thursday night is for that NFL game that nobody can watch on the NFL Network. It's for the Cleveland Browns. And
if you want to watch the Browns and the Titans, then that's your football on Thursday nights. Nobody wants to watch Bastrop and Neville on a Thursday night.
If you want to watch the Raiders and the Bucks, or the North Carolina State and Wake Forest, that's what you have Thursday night for. Thursday night should not be for Bastrop and Neville, the top game to decide that district.
Yes, I agree. For once, we completely agree on this. But yes, Bastrop going on to play Westgate, hopefully on a Friday night, and moving one step up in the bracket. It's actually looking forward, if Bastrop continues their run and can somehow get past Carr, and Neville continues their run, we could have a Bastrop-Neville semifinal game on a Friday night to be determined. But that leads us into the next thing, and that is next week's matchups. We're going to talk a little bit about the different matchups in Norla teams, starting with 5A, and we'll work our way down. So in 5A, West Monroe advances to play Captain Shreve. So we have a battle of Norla schools, as West Monroe will surely take down Captain Shreve. That one's not very interesting. West Monroe is not going to get a challenge quite yet. Ruston advances to host Alexandria, and that will be a rematch of a district game in which Ruston went on the road to defeat the Trojans out of Ash, so they look to take care of things at home to move on to the next round. Halton advances after beating Fountain Blue, and they will play John Ehret. That's going to be a tough one. John Ehret's only loss on the year is to the 1 seed West Monroe, so it's going to be a tough road test for the Halton Buccaneers. Also, we have Ouachita Parish after squeaking by Parkway. They will play Terrebonne, and they will lose because Ouachita is not a great team. I've been seeing a lot of Twitter activity coming from Ouachita, their school accounts and their fans talking about a great win over Parkway. Ouachita was favored by 21.5 points in that, and they won by 2. Great teams do not win by 2 when they are favored by 21.5. Great teams cover. Really, the great team in that matchup was Parkway. Parkway comes in, and the Panthers, they come in and they prove their greatness. Their season ends, but they are going home because that's the way the rules work.
You know, most people might be thinking, hey, JD, well, if they were 21.5 point favorites and they only went by, came out ahead by 2, then, hey, maybe your line was too big. That is a...
No, the line was not too big. The line was not too big. Ouachita dropped the ball on this one. The line was great. I know what I'm doing when I set these lines.
This might be a counter argument from some of the listeners, and I was just going to defend I 100% agree. The line was perfect and exactly what it was. Ouachita should have won by more than they did.
Yes, they should have won by more than they did, and so they're going to go on the road to Terrebonne, the 7 seed, and lose by 2 or 3 touchdowns. But that is the 5A bracket. We will now look at the 4A bracket. We said Bastrop is going to host Westgate in the second round. Neville will host Pearl River in the second round, who barely defeated Franklin Parish. Northwood Shreveport stays undefeated after beating South Terrebonne, and they will travel to number 23 seed Helen Cox, who just beat North DeSoto. Looking at the 3A bracket, North Webster, after defeating Albany, will host number 9 seed St. James. Union Parish will host number 12 seed Gina. That one should be a fun game. Sterlington will host 13 seed Church Point. And number 10 seed Caldwell Parish will host the winner of Jewel Sumner and Madison Prep, who have not yet played. In Class 2A, that's pretty wide open as far as Norla schools go. Number 16 Rayville will travel to number 1 Manny and lose that one. Number 14 General Trask will travel to number 3 Faraday and lose that one. And that will be it for the 3A schools. So it's going to be the 2A schools. So it's going to be a quick trip for Norla Sports in 2A. Hopefully we'll have more luck in 1A, where Oak Grove, after a first round bye, will host Slaughter Community Charter. Jonesboro Hodge will travel on the road to Oberlin, who just beat Northwood Lena by 60. So that one should be a tough test for Jonesboro. Homer will travel to West St. John. That's also going to be a tough one. And Delhi will host number 10 seed East Iberville. Should be another good game. Oh, and one more. Haynesville, number 2 seed. Can't forget about them. The future state championship Golden Tours out of Haynesville will host number 15 seed Sicily Island. And then we'll look briefly at the select schools, as Evangel will travel not very far to host crosstown rival C.E. Bird, a rematch of a blowout in the regular season where the Eagles should win that one. In Division 2, Loyola Prep lost to St. Louis, so we are done covering the Division 2 playoffs for Norla. They don't matter anymore. Again, listen to the South or Central Louisiana podcast if you want to hear more about that. In Division 3, Calvary Baptist will play Isidore Newman after defeating Pope John Paul II, so that one should be tough. And then in Division 4, which is probably the strongest division for Norla schools, OCS will travel to face number 1 seed Southern Lab. That one's going to be tough. And number 6 St. Frederick will travel to face the 3 seed Vermilion Catholic, which should also be a tough one.
Even though St. Frederick's does have to compete with OCS in the Division 4 Select, I do think they are waving the Ouachita Parish flag.
Yes, the Ouachita Parish flag is being waved by the Warriors of St. Fred, and we wish them luck as they travel down to Vermilion Catholic. Stay tuned. Next, we will talk about the Game of the Week coverage from last night out at Lee Hedges Stadium. But first, a word from this week's sponsor. Hello, this is JD from the Norla Sports Podcast, and this week's sponsor of the podcast is the Ouachita River. The Ouachita River, once a great river for steamboat travel, creating port cities such as Monroe, still has its great glory today. Whether it's fishing, skiing, or just kayaking up and down the Ouachita, from Sterlington down the Caldwell in Columbia, the Ouachita River has lots to offer. Try one of the many restaurants on the Ouachita River in the several cities in North Louisiana. It's a beautiful place, and we thank them for their sponsorship.
That's a good segment.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Norla Sports Recap Podcast in the first round of the football playoffs. We're now going to talk about the game of the week last night. It was the St. Amant Gators traveling north to face the Captain Shreve Gators in Lee Hedges Stadium.
Everyone wondering how the game of the week went. Well, if you weren't, if you were listening to our first segment, thinking, "Oh man, I want more," well, you're about to get it because we got all we can handle and more last night at the Lee Hedges game of the week.
That's right. Top Rat and myself traveled over to Shreveport to take in this excellent game in Lee Hedges Stadium, which I must say, is straight out of NCAA 05. When you create a team and you select that two-sided stadium, that's Lee Hedges. It's probably the most generic-looking stadium I've ever seen. It's hard to fill it up because it's rather large for a high school field. So the atmosphere, kind of lacking at times. It picked up later in the game, but just really a generic-looking stadium. It would be good if they could fix their PA system. We're going to cover from the track close to the field as we've done in the past, but our media passes were not recognized by the security. Again, we're a new company, and they made us go sit in the stands, so it was tough, but we got a lot of walking in, and we were able to cover that game.
This stadium was constructed without the fans in mind. The bleachers, a long distance from the track. The track is not even right up against the field. These are preset dimensions as far as the rectangle football field and the track size oval, and you are a long distance, and each side is like the same and capacity, and it lacked authenticity, and it seemed like it was out of the box. This was constructed without any thought or effort.
You get schools like Delhi, who one side of the stands is actually between the track and the stadium, and there's kids running around right behind the end zone. It's just a fun atmosphere. This one was the opposite.
JD, you're right. I think what happened was when we went to when we went to Delhi, we were spoiled. That field has a lot of character,
amenities,
and
soul. It's got soul.
Most people forget, and I did too, that you can't. Not every stadium is built the same.
That is true. We've been spoiled with some of the smaller schools we've been covering. A lot of the Shreveport schools play in Lee Hedges. We understand it's hard to build stadiums in the middle of a city, but it's just not the best atmosphere. But to the game. St. Amant coming in, not a North Louisiana school. Didn't know much about them. Most of you may not know much about them, so we'll give you a little bit of the scouting report. They are the Gators, like Captain Shreve, although they look a lot more like Neville with their color scheme. Just imagine Neville without a quarterback that plays from the shotgun every time and still plays good defense, and that's St. Amant.
Aside from the Gator argument debate, Captain Shreve, just on the field by themselves alone, they looked bigger, they looked faster, and they had more depth. St. Amant came as well prepped. This team did. This coaching staff had them ready to play, but last night, Friday night, the 9th, it was not enough.
Yes, St. Amant's strength is their defense. They have a big right end, number 90, Johnny Jones, who's getting a lot of college offers, and he had a great game as well as most of the St. Amant defense. But Captain Shreve did come out winning that game 28-21 in the end. There were a couple of big turnovers in the game that helped that out. But overall, it was a pretty straight, pretty defensive battle. No team had a lead more than 7 points at any point in the game. It was a fun game. It was cold and windy, but it wasn't rainy. The fans were a little dead until the fourth quarter, and then it got fun. Captain Shreve was pretty similar to St. Amant. They didn't throw the ball much. They mostly ran out of the shotgun, and they played good defense. So it was a close game on both sides, but the Gators from the north ended up being predominant, and they will go on to lose next week to West Monroe. But this game was not without its share of intriguing events.
And controversy.
St. Amant did score a touchdown that appeared to be dropped.
And disagreements.
Yes, disagreements as well. Mostly from the St. Amant fans, which we'll get to in a moment. But St. Amant dropped a pass in the end zone that was called a touchdown. You can look at the video of that on Twitter. It did not get any retweets or likes. And I'm kind of
which does bring us to a good point. Is most people when they follow us, they don't realize that the staff, and I am not affiliated with Norla Sports. I'm speaking almost on behalf of views endorsed by Norla Sports. These guys do Norla and probably more than North Louisiana. These are volunteers. They don't get the people need to realize that these guys are really putting it out there, and they're providing content. This is a great service. and I like where this team, this Twitter page is.
Thank you, Rat. We do not have a revenue stream yet, so we do not get paid for this. I'm actually losing money on this side job of mine, but I do it because I love it, and I do it for you, the fans. And when I post a controversial video that doesn't get any retweets, it makes me feel like I'm just doing it for nothing.
The thing that helps a lot is when there's a staff of multiple people like Norla has, that loss really gets divided. And so, for example, if the loss for the whole year was, say, $50, with a staff of 5, you really cut that loss from 50 down to 10 a person, and that makes everything for the whole year more manageable.
So if you would just watch the videos, it would be even more manageable. But that aside, the touchdown ended up not hurting Captain Shreve, as the Captain Gators went on to win the game. One player in particular for Captain Shreve that we want to talk about was strong safety David Brown IV, number 24, who had some good plays and also was pretty active on his phone during the game. We know this because he liked one of our tweets in the middle of the game.
What's funny about that, JD, is we just got done with our segment on really trying to get more direct engagement as far as retweets, likes, quote tweets, and replies. And here,
if the players can do it, you can
here,
too.
And we do need to recognize when we have it right in our face. And David Brown IV, he is putting our name out there. I don't believe he follows y'all, surprisingly, but he does have the time to favorite, and you can't take one bird without the other. And a favorite over a follow, we'll take. I imagine y'all will take. Norla Sports will take what they can get.
This is we will. This is a pretty conservative part of the country, and I know many of you probably see this and say, why is there a player on his cell phone in the middle of the game? Well, he's engaging with updates about his team. He's trying to fire his team up. He cares about his brothers, and he cares about their coverage, unlike some of you who aren't retweeting the controversial video that I posted like I did when I did it in Delhi. I got lots of retweets. I'm just saying the folks over in Richland Parish care a lot more than the folks in Caddo Parish do.
Right, and this has a little bit to do with the game is changing, and much like the technology, every day, new phone, new browser, get a new phone, new video game selection. Well, we're
download an update.
Download an update. You gotta get a new one. I think what you're gonna start seeing is direct on field in game engagement / selection, and I think we're seeing a taste of that. We saw it firsthand. Game of the week last night. Players are going to start being on their phone in the game.
It is not out of the question. Our phones are practically attached at our hips. Now, what I was saying about the Captain Shreve fans being a little bit disengaged, I believe there were more people in their spirit section and student section combined than there were the rest of the fans. The polar opposite of that were the Saint Amant fans, who were just angry about everything all the time. We get to the game, the first thing we hear is Saint Amant fans complaining about the concession stands. And then they're up in the stands yelling at the refs. They're yelling at the Captain Shreve players. They're yelling at their own players. They're yelling at each other.
We didn't hear anything from the Captain Shreve fans as on the negative side. And I think this is just a classic tip in the scales, South Louisiana. This is just how it is. North Louisiana, you got the gumbo. I mean, you got
sometimes
the whole food meals and the outdoor country life and the farms. South Louisiana, people get upset. People get outraged.
They're passionate.
They are more than enraged, and I think we saw it firsthand last night. Classic North Louisiana, South Louisiana matchup. Happened to be two Gators, but the lighter Gator and the stronger Gator came out ahead. They landed the last punch that proved to be the final blow.
That is true. I'm going to walk it back a little bit. We did talk to some Saint Amant fans, and they were very nice. They were very friendly. But when it comes to their football, they are passionate.
They were nice to us, but you could tell deep down they believed, hey, buddy, we're from South Louisiana.
We know what we're doing.
We know what we're doing, and North Louisiana is just little sister mindset, and we're going to keep y'all good luck in, and we are the better part of the state.
Well, that was proven wrong last night, and St. Amant season is over. The game was fun. There was a lot of stuff going on, and something I want to do, sometimes we will reference things in previous podcasts, but something that happened right after the game is we saw a billboard for Port-au-Prince, which, as many of you know from listening to the first podcast, is a delicious little restaurant over in Claiborne Parish on Lake Claiborne. And we gave them a lot of good free press, and we're considering reaching out to them for sponsorship until we saw this billboard.
We're revoking that praise. We're revoking,
yes, officially.
We are revoking the hub, how we dubbed it, the hub of Claiborne Parish. Apparently, they are making a chain on a lake named Cross
Lake in Shreveport, which is, of all the lakes in North Louisiana, is the only one that I don't want to be at any point in time.
The draw of Port-au-Prince and Claiborne is the originality. Is the look, guys? We are not trying to go out there and steal business. We are just a one mom and pop place. Last night, on the way home, on a billboard, I see Port-au-Prince right there in the heart of Shreveport, Cross Lake, new font. It doesn't even look like Port-au-Prince.
It just feels like McDonald's now.
It is on the way. This is how they start, JD.
Right.
One successful place turns into two, and it's that classic, hey, tell your friend to vote. Tell him to vote. 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 4, 4 goes to 16. Before you know it.
In the past year, they've doubled their restaurant size.
Before you know it, Port-au-Prince will be in the shopping centers. They'll be in the strip malls. This place is going to mainstream. They're going wholesale. They're going retail. And Port-au-Prince is, I'm disappointed, and I don't even know what to say. Stop with the all-you-can-eat steaks and shrimps and beans. The way I view it is this place is full of onions because they stink.
One of my biggest fears is driving down south to watch one of our great Norla teams play and then pulling over in Opelousas and seeing a Port-au-Prince down there where it doesn't belong. That's what's going to happen if they don't watch out. They're just going to keep expanding. The greed in this country has infested the Prince family, and they are expanding their restaurants, and we can no longer endorse their restaurant.
And not only is it the Prince family, it's also the port.
The port, right? The port is not the best. We don't want ports on Cross Lake. We want ports on Lake Claiborne because that's what we really need. What we don't want is it spinning out of control.
And it's already spun.
Like a little roulette ball just running around. And they're going to land on 00, and they're going to lose everything if they're not careful.
They think they're getting a plus 105, plus 110 on their red or black bet, but what they forgot to consider was those little sneaky devils in the corner, that 0 and that 00, and the way they're going, that green section is going to get landed on in a hurry.
Let me just throw an analogy out here, okay? Just for anybody who is thinking of opening a business like Port-au-Prince, play it slow. Come up with a strategy and stick to the strategy. Like last night after the game, we went to one of those beautiful casinos in the Shreveport area, and I sat down at the roulette table because Rat wanted to go play poker because he's a degenerate, but I didn't really want to do that. So I sat at the roulette table and said, I can make this last. I had a strategy. I stuck with the strategy. I turned $100 into $200 over a span of 3 hours. That is pretty solid. I cashed out. I left. I didn't get greedy. I stuck with it. I slow played it, and it worked.
It's a simple strategy.
It is.
And Port-au-Prince knows that they are pushing their luck. They're taking their chips and saying we want more.
It's ironic that you should bring that up because after I won that $100, I go down into the underbelly of the hull of the ship, and I come down, and there you are sitting at the poker table, and you somehow convince me to sit down at the table, which I didn't want to do the entire night. And this is just like Port-au-Prince. They're expanding, which they should not do. And I sit down, and I get ace-king, and I go all in, and I lose $200, just like that. This is your fault.
Well, either way, the casinos in Shreveport have provided a lot of jobs.
You're trying to change the subject now. We were talking about Port-au-Prince, and we're talking about how I lost $200.
Many people have hobbies,
and
they play in the casinos, and
worked.
this is what they do.
irregardless, Captain Shreve, moving on, losing next week to West Monroe. So congrats to the Gators for beating St. Amant, but their season will end. Well, one more thing we want to talk about is the game of the week next week. We've already got some questions about what that game will be. We have not decided yet because not all the games are final, but we can give you some hints. It is going to be a smaller school. It will not be at Lee Hedges or one of these giant stadiums. It's going to be a small school where we can get nice close coverage of good, passionate football. We're going to develop a strategy. We're going to stick to it, and we're not going to veer off course and lose a bunch of money. It's going to be a game with meaning. It's going to be a game between two good teams, and it's the second round of the playoffs, so it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, and with the casino aspect, there are 3 big minesweepers in the North Louisiana region. And one people forget, but Shreveport, obvious.
And the game of the week will not be near casinos.
Big 50-mile radius. We're staying away from there for sure. That's an easy one. Arkansas just passed a bill. They are allowing casino gambling, but they don't have a casino yet.
It's a good thing we don't cover Arkansas then.
Right, but still, 50-mile radius may cover, but we don't have to worry about Arkansas yet. Not yet. Also, in Vicksburg, 50-mile radius, that hits a little bit of mound country. It hits East Madison, East Carroll, but the one many people forget is Gina, Choctaw Pines, 50-mile radius. We're staying away from all 3 of those minesweepers, and we are not going to touch that. We're all going to consider that as a Norla staff and as a consultant. So stay tuned.
That's right. We won't cover Gina unless they were to come up north, but we'll see what happens next week with that. Oh, anyways, thank you for listening to the second ever podcast, the Round 1 playoff podcast of Norla football. I've been JD along with Top Rat, and we hope you have a great week. Stay safe out there, watch some good football, and cheer on those teams. Have a good one.
Yes, right. Thank you. But I do have one more thing.
That's right. Oh, a new segment. I'm sorry. You have something you wanted to do?
I want to do it, and this is going to be a new segment we call Norla Nights.
Norla Nights.
In this edition, to introduce this segment, we are going to spend probably at most 15 to 20 minutes talking about one team, one night, one season.
I'm turning this over to you, and then I'll let you host this, and I'll sort of comment because I don't really know what it is you have in mind. So listeners, join me on this ride.
So this week we were talking about the 2004 West Monroe Rebels. Head coach was at that time was the great Don Chows. We're going to talk about the whole season, folks. And this was a team right in the heart of Norla, and this team proved themselves to be tied to the stars, and no sun could ever burn their bridges. This team started off immediately hitting the ground running. They went all the way to Bossier City, to Parkway, pulled out the victory, 38-7. The following week, they go from one corner of the state down right down to the other. Flip flop sides. They beat Karen Grove. Then, this team was against all odds, and St. Amant, they went right back down to the St. Amant, and then they won. And then back to the next week, starting the district schedule strong, they come out they won that game 33-20.
Against who?
The 5A district foe, Ruston Bearcats.
Ah, yes.
Then then they keep rolling the ball, and they go to Tioga and win 42-7. The season is sure looking like it's certainly going to be carrying home the gold trophy. Then Tioga, they were no match, 42-7, and they may have been district at that time. Funny that Tioga's 5A, how much times have changed. Ouachita Parish, they beat the Ouachita Parish Lions 32-20. I'm sure that was a tough one, but they somehow squeaked it out. Then another one, Captain Shreve, they go over to Shreveport. This team was on the road a lot. I do not see hardly any home games. Dang. Well, actually, Captain Shreve was at home. Captain Shreve was at home. St. Amant was at home. Well, actually, the first 3 games were at home. But Captain Shreve, they won 36-13. Bird, on the next week, we're getting toward the end of the playoffs, and they still haven't lost, and they win 56-0. And by now, you know they're looking toward that playoff schedule. They sweep the last 2 games. Then they go to the playoffs, and they were the number 4, I believe, 4 seed that year, and they hosted McDonough 35, which is actually now looking like they're going to be in 3A. So yeah, they beat them. Next week they had to go all the way to Archbishop Shaw, but they pulled it out 37-13
on a Saturday.
That's right. And then the Rebels are still they were still going, and they beat Airline again. Second time that year. They had to get a safety probably to win that one. They won 12-10. I don't know how else they could have got 12, but it was probably they probably were tied. But they were tied. You can write it down. They were tied and they got a safety. They beat Fountain Blue in the semifinals. Man, I bet that was a great game. They won 49-17, and then the big showcase finale.
Is this the year they played Evangel?
Yeah, that's why we picked it. This was a Norla Nights special. This was 2 great teams.
I remember that.
And this was a game that they were. It was a close, great game, and they had a great first half, and they ended up losing 21-20. So that's Norla Nights. And
okay. Thank you. See you next week.
Thanks, JD.